Journey with Judy. Honest, open, transparent. It's hot.
There's no such thing as perfect people. There's no such thing as a perfect life. So come as you are, broken and scarred. Lift up your heart and be amazed and be changed by a perfect God.
Happy Easter, friends. You are journeying with Judy this Easter Sunday, and gosh, Dave, it doesn't even feel like Easter. It doesn't seem like Easter. It doesn't look like Easter. It doesn't feel like Easter. But I'm here to tell you today, this Sunday, this Easter Sunday, that things are never what they seem because He has risen. He has risen indeed. And I just want to be so mindful of the fact that Good Friday always precedes Easter Sunday. There's just got to be some darkness to appreciate the light. And I also have to be totally hot right now, totally honest, open, and transparent that I've had a million things going on in my life in the past week, and to try to draw any one story as my opening thing to draw you in sometimes is difficult for me, Dave. So I took a little time this morning to sit at McDonald's. Yes, McDonald's is open on Easter Sunday. And once again, things are not as they seem, because there I was looking homeless and officeless and familyless on Easter. And somebody came up to me that I haven't seen in such a long time and said, "Are you homeless? Are you familyless? And what are you doing here on Easter Sunday?" And it was so beautiful because they had heard all about Kennedy. And their recommendation to me was that I need to write a book. They said, you need to write a book about that whole thing that happened with your kid last year in football. You need to write a book about this whole thing that happened with your kid and this car accident. And so here's the deal. I've told you not to be a blamer and a shamer, and I am totally blaming and shaming these people right now because it's because of them that I really don't have an opening story. Or I'm not even sure where this show is going to go today, because I sat and talked to these guys for about 20 minutes. So the bad news is I'm not sure what we're talking about. The good news is I can always find something to talk about. But here's what I do know. I do know that we got to talk about what Easter Sunday is about. We got to talk about what the resurrection means, what Easter really means, even though things are not what they seem. So here's the deal. What is a court case and a cough drop, radar and a handicap spot, Kennedy and a sports facility, the NCAA and some tanning spray have to do with resurrection Easter Sunday? Well, you're just going to have to stay tuned to find out. You are journeying with Judy right here on Lake 96.1, and we'll be back to talk about all that stuff. Happy Easter. Okay, so the something new inside me right now is the reality of what has transpired in my life in the past 84 days. And I'm going back to the same thing this Easter Sunday morning, is that things are not what they seem. But He has risen. He has risen indeed. And there's so many things that have happened just in the last week that weren't what they seemed. And not only as we journeyed these past few days to this Easter Sunday celebration, but in my life, in every single instance, I kept thinking, like, it's not supposed to be this way. It's not supposed to look like this. It's not supposed to feel like this. But here's what I know. I know that I can't judge by an outward appearance, and that's what Scripture says. It says, don't judge by the outward appearance, because the Lord does not see things as you see them. People judge an outward appearance, but the Lord, He just looks at your heart. And the bad news is we have judgments that present us from seeing the good, Dave, that like just lies beyond the way things appear. And I don't want to be that person. But if I'm going to be honest, open, and transparent, I'll tell you, like I did last week, I'm the one who has the faith to move a mountain one day, and then I don't even have enough faith like the size of a mustard seed. But the good news is God can make it the size of a mountain with a mustard seed. So I'm going to thank Him for that. So this week when I went to the movie with my friend Nita, last year I talked about my friend who rose from the dead. If you are a listener, you know my girlfriend Nita was in hospice and she rose from the dead right now this last Easter Sunday, literally. And so we went to see Noah this past week, and as we were driving, myself and 2 other girlfriends and Nita, we pulled into the spot and she said, do you want to use my handicap? She has like a handicap thing that you can hang in there. And I thought, well, I don't know if that's illegal or immoral but okay, I'm good with both. So I hung up this little handicap sticker, and I was thinking that when we got out of the car, when the 4 of us got out of the car, there's no way that we looked like we were handicapped. But the reality is I'm handicapped in so many ways that it didn't look like it. But I'm here to tell you that I am. I won't speak for my 3 girlfriends. My friend who rose from the dead literally got the sticker. And just so you know, when we left the movie, I did try to pretend like I lost it because I wanted to keep it. I just wanted to. It's just like my photo album where you just want to walk around and say, if you only. It is so sick and wrong. But I am the same person who used to park in a handicapped spot. And then my brother said, now that you're a Christian, will you not be parking in a handicapped spot anymore? Because just so you know, you're not handicapped. But anyway, so things didn't look like they seemed. But I was handicapped, so I could really hide under that. Okay, how about my daughter? Here's what I hear all the time. She looks great. Kennedy, I saw her, and she looks so good, and she appears to be fine. Well, friends, fine stands for feelings inside, never expressed. And I know my kid has so many of those. So even though it looks like it looks, and like we look at the outward appearance, see, God is judging my kid's heart, and I'm sure it's dismayed at times and confused and disturbed and displaced. And it might be all the things that she legitimately needs to process through. But the reality is my daughter is not what she seems. And neither is the court case, because I heard yesterday that it's going to be really hard to prove that this woman was impaired. And without getting into a whole bunch of details on that, that would make it very difficult for what my daughter needs to continue to journey to a place of closure, that justice needs to be done. Dave, do you understand that? Like, when you have a trauma in your life, sometimes you just need closure in the way that someone paid a price for what happened. And the reality is I got to walk in my faith on that one too and say, you know what, Lord, it doesn't look like, it doesn't feel like, and it doesn't seem like, but you are risen, and you are risen indeed, which means you make all things work for your good. So something good is going to come out of that, Dave, no matter what it looks or seems or feels to be. How about that? True that? Amen. Okay. Then I walked into this volleyball facility, and literally it looked like a tin can. Now, the problem is when the storms came, Dave, in Rockford last week, and I was literally in like these 4 walls that was a tin can, I was really, really scared. But here's what I can tell you. When I walked into that facility, it didn't look like much. And I judged it based on its outward appearance, unlike the Lord, who sees things on the inside. But once I got inside, Dave, I was fascinated by all the things that were going on in there. They had soccer and baseball and basketball and volleyball. They had a snack bar. They had a real bar. And I was reminded again that things are not as they seem. And we got to stop doing that. We got to stop looking at something through our own eyes. We got to start seeing things through a lens of faith, seeing things the way God sees them. Because here's the deal. A great majority of us are satisfied with an appearance as though it's reality. And we're often more influenced by the things that seem to be rather than the things that are. And you know, my daughter Campbell she's so awesome. My best time. I don't want to say she's my favorite kid, but I'll tell you she's my favorite kid right now, because she totally digs me and doesn't find me that embarrassing or that annoying, and we just engage. And she's so smart, and she teaches me so much, but she is honest, open, and transparent. So I've been doing this teeth whitening thing, and I said to Cam, seriously, my teeth are looking whiter. Now let me first tell you, I whitened my teeth because Campbell told me they were gray and yellow. So I said to her, Cam, honestly, like, my teeth are looking whiter. And she goes, you just keep telling yourself that. So her whole thing is, you can tell yourself whatever you want, Mom, but it's your lie. Tell it any way you want. And so the reality is we do that. We tell ourselves things that aren't true, and we got to be careful what we're telling ourselves, because guess what? We're listening. We're listening. That was a quote I gave both of my kids this week. You got to be careful what you are telling yourself because you are listening. And another quote said, be careful who you're pretending to be because then you're going to forget who you really are. So the message today that I got to bring home more than ever is that things are seldom what they seem. But he has risen, and he has risen indeed. So I love the quote that my brother always says, what doesn't come out in the wash comes out in the rinse. Right, Dave? So no matter what things feel like, look like, seem like, there's something bigger on the horizon. You know, we always want to live in the two places that we can't change, the past and the future. When the reality is if we're living in today and we are believing and we are receiving all that God has for us, then we're in the best state that we can be. See, I don't want to live in a state of confusion, in a state of disbelief, a state of doubt and despair. I want to live in a state of faith. I want to live knowing that things are not what they seem. They're even better than that. My son, Carter, spent the first year at the University of Arizona playing football. And he was so afraid this past week that they were going to cut him. There's 100 guys on the team, and they made it clear they were cutting 25. Now, for 1 year, he has gone the extra mile. He has showed up for things that were voluntary. He's got the best grades on the team. He's not been in any trouble and, had to deal with any infractions. He has gone above and beyond on the field and off the field. And I'm here to tell you that it has seemed like a waste of time for him. It has seemed like nobody noticed it. It has seemed like things were different than they appear. That his hard work wasn't really paying off. That there was no benefit to doing the hard things. And I was afraid for him, Dave, that he would be, I was afraid. I was already thinking about how I was going to work it for good. I had this whole plan about, that's why God did this. But in reality, I was wondering, why would God do that? And my man, he stepped in. Dave, I got to believe my man because he's so right. So often he said they'll never cut him. Here's the reality. And again, when I'm talking about my kids, it is never about bragging about my kids. It is bragging about the way God lives and moves and has his being. When we just put our faith in him and we know that his plan is so much better than what we could ever ask, dream, or imagine. And so my kid has been living his dream and he was afraid it was going to come to an end. And it didn't come to an end. He was called into the coach's office and he was told that everybody sees what you're doing. Everybody recognizes that you have such a strong work ethic. I want to commend you on what you've done. I want to promise you that you will play. You are going to be invited back. And that there's big things on the horizon for you. Okay, Dave, how about that? Like it didn't seem like it, it didn't feel like it, and it didn't look like it. They didn't only tell him that, Dave, but here's the other thing about the NCAA that I started with. The NCAA has just approved that kids who are not on scholarship can eat for free. So my son basically got 3 meals a day for free coming next year. So once again, for a year, I know that Carter was wondering. He was doubting. He was wavering. When the reality is when you do hard things, and we know that the hard thing and the right thing is always the same thing, God's going to work it for way bigger than we thought. And I could tell here's what I know about Dave. Things are not what they seem. It seems to me that I have a lot of time left to keep talking. But Dave is shaking his head and saying, shut your roll. Go to break. Is that true, Dave? Do I got to go to break?
Please.
Okay, I got to go to break. So when we get back, I got to tell you a couple more things that are not what they seem. You are journeying with Judy right here on Lake 96.1. And Greg Cunis, he's my man. He sponsors this show. So thank you, Greg. I hope you and your family are having a blessed Easter. We'll be back after the break.
Here we go. I heard an old story, how a Savior came from glory, how he gave his life on Calvary to save a wretch like me. I heard about his groaning, of his precious blood's atoning. Then I repented of my sins and won the victory. Oh, victory in Jesus.
So that's what we're doing today. We're celebrating the victory in Jesus and the fact that things aren't always what they seem, but he has risen. He has risen indeed. And we got to know that. We got to walk in that. The other day, when I look cute, Dave, I usually say to my family, get ready to see me because I look so cute. I usually stand at the stairs and I say to Bob, are you ready? I'm coming down and I am so cute today. Because then I have to help him say, oh my gosh, you're so cute today. So usually Campbell is my best. Like Campbell will say, what happened to your hair? Or did you know, she's just so honest, open, and transparent. So the other day I said, oh my gosh, Cam, you never even told me that I look cute. And she's like, Mom, I shouldn't have to. You really need to get some self-confidence. Now, here's the deal. We need to know that we know that we know that God is always working things out, no matter what it looks like or how it feels. And if we haven't experienced that these last couple days, never mind the last 40 days that we've been journeying with Jesus. So you're not only journeying with Judy, but hopefully you've been journeying with Jesus. And you've lived through tons of temptations. And you've seen miracles. Maybe you felt blessed and cursed all in the same day or week. Maybe you've been on the highest mountain and in the lowest valley. Maybe you found out who your friends were and were surprised at who your foes ended up to be. I know even though this has been what they call a holy week, I know I haven't felt very holy. But see, lucky for me, God sees beyond what you see. He sees beyond what I feel. See, he's looking at my heart. And he's looking at my soul. And see, he is who he says, regardless of what we believe or how we perceive. And we are who he says, regardless of what we believe or what others perceive. Because as people are judging the outward appearance, they're not seeing what he sees. They're not knowing what he knows, which is our story, which is our history, which is the experiences that we've had that make us who we are today. See, I'm grateful that Good Friday always comes before Easter Sunday because I know when it gets so dark that I have such a great appreciation for the light. So another example of how things are not what they seem. And before I forget, I have to give you this example of what happened to me that things were not what they seem. Dave, do you ever eat cough drops? Okay, well, you need to have an experience with a cough drop called a Ricola. It's called Ricola Extra Strength. And so I always get the wrong cough drop. There's so many cough drops to choose from, and there's 500, and I always get the wrong one. Well, the other day, this lady handed me this cough drop, and like it looked like every other cough drop. Well, the reality was I was like sucking, and then all of a sudden, like, bam! I swear, Dave, I wasn't sure if I went to the bathroom in my pants or my nose open, my throat open. There was this thing inside that came bursting out. It was like a gel or something, Dave. And so it was just another thing that I said, see, this little cough drop is not what it seemed like. What's going on inside of it had so much power that it I'm telling you, it startled me. Like I actually was looking around like, oh my gosh, is it just me or this? It was crazy. And that's how an experience with the Lord is. It's that same thing that you know that it comes from way inside, that you're working it and working it and working it and feeling like, is it even working? It's working. But it takes a little time. And it takes a little faith. And then it takes the ability to judge something not how it feels, not how it looks, and not how it seems. Because he has risen indeed, and he's here to judge what's on the inside. He's here to tell us that nothing is concealed that won't be revealed. He's here to say, quit being influenced by things as they seem and look at things as they are. I love this quote. What you look at, it's just a part, but when I look, I see the heart. So this Easter Sunday, we got to start seeing with the eyes of the heart that God placed within us to allow us to feel. That's one more story, Dave. Do I have time for one more story? This is my last story. Okay, my son Chandler the other day, he went to the dentist and he had a cavity filled. And the lady said it's going to be numb for a while, and I'm crying. But anyway, so we were driving home, and it was numb. It was visibly like just bothering Chandler. I mean, he has about as much patience as his mother and father put together. And anyway, he's like, Mom, there's nothing worse. There's nothing worse than not being able to feel something. And I said, you know what, baby? No truer words were ever spoken. I spent my whole life not wanting to feel anything, to numb whatever feeling would come across that would be difficult. And my son is right. There is no, and he did really look stupid, Dave. So as that was another thing. Things did not, I mean, he was acting like such an angry, stupid little idiot in the car. So things were not as they seemed with Chan, because the wisdom that he spoke, it is true. There is nothing worse than not being able to feel. Okay, do I have to go? I got to go. Okay, we're going to stay tuned. We're going to wrap it up after the break. You are journeying with Judy right here on Lake 96.1 in this happy, blessed Easter Sunday. Okay, so one last story is I Googled things are not what they seem in preparation for this show. And Dave, the first thing that came up was an advertisement for the Extend-A-Stay. That's where I stayed last week, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's a perfect example. Things are not as they seem. Friends, this week you have got to keep it hot, honest, open, and transparent. And if we're going to be honest, open, and transparent, we're going to know that God is who he says he is, no matter what we believe, no matter what we receive. And things are never what they seem, but he is risen. He has risen indeed. So keep it hot, honest, open, and transparent. Peace out.